Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM22. This is Youth Factory, and we are on episode number 9. We are kicking off a brand new season now in Division 6, aka the 7th tier. We're still low. We're still not where we want to be in terms of having something financially. The teams are going to get better and better. In fact, we trail for one of the very first times. And here early on in this one, free kick, dangerous position, Ustby, and they just win a header there. Guy kind of charges in a little bit late, the battle for the header. He comes in a little bit earlier and nods it on. They've had 2 shots, both on target, and yes, low XG, but they get a goal, and Malum with his first goal just 10 minutes later to equal the scoring. We're still heavily favored to win this season, and based on that, the wall just standing put like that. Ooh, a penalty held. Dangerous free kick a second time, and instead of putting it in the back of the net, we get held. So Lovas steps up and gets his first goal of the season from the penalty spot, and now inside half an hour, already 3 goals in this one. It's a high-scoring affair. I have made some changes to the side on kind of who I see as a starter these days, and then I'm going to start tweaking the tactics, because last season I was trying to get all those contracts sound and get that taken care of for this for the long-term impact. But we've got Acerod into the side. We've got Darlishta in for Astencio. Astencio has played so well and may re-earn his spot. We'll see how Darlishta does. But Darlishta is one of the highest overall quality and highest overall potential players, and I know potential is not something we've seen a lot of, but this season I think I'm going to try. I'm going to try to hire a couple staff. Nice goal there from Calzi. I'm going to try to hire a couple of staff and see if we can't start getting a little bit of development out of the players. We don't have the facilities, I know that, but we don't have the staff either. And now that we have a little bit higher reputation for still overall small amounts of cash, we can hire some guys. And if I can get some to specialize in a couple areas, I can focus training in those couple of areas, and I think maybe we can finally get a little bit of development. At least that's the hope. I'd like to try that this year. But also for this season, what I definitely want to do is I want to get the tactics sorted out. Lovas said first goal of the year, but that would be his second of the game. How's he going from the penalty spot? But okay. 4-1. Still not even halftime. Lovas possibly offside on that. A nice simple play. Overcrowding the box. That was man-to-man. No, he's good. He's good. Not offside. Alright, folks. Well, we're already 3 goals ahead. I don't think we're going to have too much threat the rest of this game. But short term, I'm going to tweak the tactics on an individual sense now that I have kind of the players that I want in place for the formation. Formation itself still unchanged. The basics there are unchanged, but I'm going to start looking at individual, what are the individuals capable of, and then what can I do to get a little more out of the individuals tactically by making some small changes, because we still have a basic setup of just center mids. Ooh, was close. Acerod might have been fouled there, but he gets a touch, he gets the ball ahead, and Lovas had a chance, but put wide. Nice drop off from Malum, but Malum can't convert. A little laggy. I've had it a lot better in other states, and the state of ordering things, the graphics card that I'm going to get, it's going to take a while before I get it, as it's going to be on back order. But you see, they end up just doubling the XG, 2 more shots the whole rest of the half. So after those first 8 minutes, with a .12 XG, they were a little fortunate to get that goal. And we, meanwhile, are accumulating lots of goals and lots of chances. All right, we're going to push forward into the season a little bit. I will be spending that window trying to tweak the tactics a little bit. I'll show you what the results are before we get into our next match. 5 matches into the season, we now have a few things worthy of note. First off, I've hired 3 additional coaches for a combined salary of about 8,000. Very cheap, very affordable, no cost, as they were all without jobs, and I did not have much to pick from. We still have low reputation, and just getting any sort of staff at this level has catapulted us to having the best staff in the entire league. It didn't provide much, but a little bit maybe could go a long ways for us, considering the circumstances. Terrible facilities, all of those factors that we've had that have slowed us down. Maybe we can start to see a little progression now, and actually there's some positive signs. I hired 2 fitness coaches, a U19s one and one for the senior team, and they're actually so poor that they're not even boosting us. They're still 1-star quality. Can't be any worse than what we had. Can they? Maybe. I don't know. But goalkeeping, one goalkeeping coach has given us a little bit. We got a 1/2 star there now. But then from there, I've been able to be less spread out myself, where I was coaching literally every single category before. We now have a little bit less going on. Our assistant coach, Eliason, gives us 2 stars in defending, tactical, making my job a little bit easier. I'm now at 1.5 or 2 stars in all of my categories outside of goalkeeping, handling, and that little bit. I'm just hoping that's the breakthrough we need to at least start seeing minor, small, moderate amounts of progression. And I'm not done tweaking individually. I've been going about a week at a time and then going in and tweaking another position or 2. I have not gotten to our forwards, though we do have kind of a specific design already for them and have. But the midfield was very, very basic. And I'm stepping beyond that. For one thing, I've got a couple ball-playing defenders. Nobody that's good enough to actually play the wide center back role, which I'd love to have, but at least ball-playing defenders gives you a little bit more going on, a little more offensive oomph to your back trio. But both Kumar and Matheson, who is now taking over the starting job, we finally progressed that midfield a little bit. Kumar was our weakest player in the lineup, and finally he's relegated to the bench. But with Matheson dropping back as we've gotten stronger in the midfield, Matheson's playing as a deep-lying playmaker. Turns out that Kumar's best role is as a deep-lying playmaker as well. He's actually quite bad at being a defensive midfielder. He's only got, I think, a 5 in tackling. Matheson, definitely a bit better, but not great. That's still a weak position for us. But I've switched our center mids from just the generic center mid role and giving them a little more organization. Ball-winning midfielder, Ostby is quite good as a ball-winning midfielder. He's actually quite good in tackling. That's one of his areas of strength, and he's not necessarily that creative of a player, so hopefully he can help us win the ball back a little bit faster with that assignment. And then attacking playmaker. So we have a deep-lying playmaker, we have a more advanced playmaker through the midfield, and they've already got a relationship built between each other, so hopefully that's going to get us set up in a way with 2 playmakers that can definitely make a lot happen. A couple of my wide midfielders have specific roles depending on what their strengths are, and all of that should just make us slightly more creative. Now, I haven't changed the team tactical style at this point, and I will continue to look into that once I finish going through the forwards, but it's a start. And this has all happened in the last couple of games, and part of the reason for that is our third thing of note, which is we are not leading the league. In fact, we really haven't done that well at all. Our goal differential +4 is the weakest we've seen since our very first intake. 3 wins, a draw, and a loss already. Now, one worthy thing of note is that we've only played 5 matches, and Norderland has played 6. Mengelrud Star have played 8. They've played 3 matches more than us. So it's not like these teams are perfect and giving us a really hard time, but A, we've been less than perfect, and B, we're a bit behind some of the other teams in terms of matches played, but not entirely, because you look behind us, there's a whole bunch of teams that have only played 4 matches so far. So, yeah, this title, anything but a foregone conclusion at this point. At the moment, Lavas, 5 goals already and a 7.68 rating. He's been a great addition. Last thing of note before we continue on into the season a little bit further is I've had, I believe it was 4 players get pretty dang pissed off about one team coming in and giving them an offer and us refusing it, even though they offered us 0 money whatsoever. Who in their right mind would ever accept a deal like that unless you're trying to offload players? But 3 players got mad from that very thing. Since that time, just over the last week or so, one of those has released his interest and doesn't care anymore, isn't upset anymore. He's okay. He wants to stay. So 2 of them are still angry. The 4th angry player was due to having been promised that they were a star player, but now they're a bench guy. And that was Honore. I bumped Honore down to a breakthrough prospect, and he was pretty ticked off about that. But the assistant manager keeps playing him anyway, and you can see just how bad he was and has been on the season so far. The assistant manager, the only one selecting him, but they keep selecting him. Thanks to him actually still getting played anyway, he's actually dropped the concerns, and he's not worried about being labeled as a breakthrough prospect. It'd be nice if my assistant manager would follow my lineup a little bit more. I allow them the freedom to choose the players, but they're not even close to what my starting 11 is. It's not like they make 1 or 2 changes a match. They're making wholesale changes, and the team is struggling a little bit, so I might have to force them to go with my selections or something. We'll see if we continue to struggle or how much more I need to take over to make sure we see this season out. It's early. It's very, very early. We've got plenty of season ahead of us. Speaking of, let's go ahead and move forward in the season a bit more. Having reached the halfway point of the season, things are definitely looking better than they were in the early stages. 11 of 22 matches played. We have 26 points. That's 8 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. So over that last stretch, for the last 6 matches, just 1 draw in there. So certainly better. But the goal differential is still only a +10, which is equal amongst the entire top 3 of the league. Also, I think worthy of note, and I think it's part of the reason why we're seeing a bit more talent, we're seeing a bit more challenge from the opposition this season, is that if you look at the standings, most of the teams have a 2 beside their name. This is your second best of some bigger clubs. And so these are, those young developing players that they're trying to see into a higher level, into wherever their senior club might be playing, whether it's 1 or 2 divisions above us or whether it's much higher up the ladder. Regardless, the competition level really stepped up with this division, and it's not going to be easy going forward. I mean, from the looks of things at the halfway point, we are possibly or probably headed to a title still, but we're not winning as frequently, we're not blowing teams out, so I would suspect that as soon as next season, it could take us a while to get beyond that level. And I definitely find that interesting because we are lacking development. But speaking of, across the board, looking at players, they still seem to roughly be where they were. But when we look closer, Ostby out for a while, by the way. When we look closer at development, you begin to see a trend here recently over these last couple of months. Where some of the players are beginning to show signs. You can see the strength went from a 6 to a 7 for Ostby. Now, he's been out for nearly a month, so he's not exactly the best example. Astencio isn't going to see progress because Astencio is capped out. Taverede, we're not seeing the progress there. Snellingen hasn't been playing as much, so that makes a certain amount of sense. Stensby Jakobsen, goalkeepers, I can see not progressing, and you're still seeing that pattern for the most part. We're not seeing anything big. Ace Rod, work rate's gone up, jumping reach has gone up, but that's about it. But look here, heading, Boyotsev heading has jumped. It's all the way up here now. That's jumping reach, but it's in the same category. Long shots up, penalty taking up. And we are seeing a few categories that are definitely moving up. There is progress. Where others are not seeing it, we quietly are seeing a few players getting better. Darlishta, a little up, a little down. I mean, we're seeing him kind of yo-yo back and forth. But there's definitely some categories here, especially recently, unlike before, where we are seeing some progression. And look at all of these positives in the training. And Darlishta is a low determination player who's been with us from that very first intake and was just straight yo-yoing. But we're actually seeing some positive signs here. Determination went up. I have taken advantage, at least on one occasion, where Darlishta had a bad performance. I criticized, and we saw his determination increase. 4 is still poor. He is doing mentoring, and that mentoring is seeing some progress. If that determination comes up a little bit, I think we're going to see even more progression. It's limited on who is seeing something. I think Honore dropped from 5 to 2 in stamina while he was out for an injury, but he's bounced back to 5 since then. Melvin Jakobsen, an indication of struggles. You can see his crossing was a 6. It's now down to a low 5. You can see Calzi is somebody who made some progression. Work rate was an 11. It's now at a 14. Overall, not much is happening, but small amounts of progression are emerging. And I think that at least a few players are taking to our improved development. And even if it's minor, a little bit is a little bit. And that can go a long ways in the long term, because we're going to have to see some development. Otherwise, we're absolutely going to stall out, regardless of what the potential of our players are. If we can't get to a high enough level where people are willing to pay us and we can't improve our training facilities, something's got to give. So spending a very small amount of cash, less than 10,000 for an entire year, to bring in a little bit more staff to give us a little bit of training happening, a little bit of improvement. I have to do something. I can't sit on my hands and wait for us to climb the ladder, because especially looking at the table this season, that rapid climb looks to be slowing down quite likely in our next season. We're at the halfway point though. We've still got some time left. Let's push forward yet again. We're getting into the later part of the season now, and we've only stumbled once, but my oh my, what a big stumble it was. Björka, we lost 4-0 on the road, and they sit third in the league. I mean, they are pretty good, and they had our number very early, 2, 9, and 14-minute goals. So they were already up 14 minutes in. And then eventually a penalty pushed us off the rest of the way. Our ratings, all things considered, losing 4-0 weren't that bad. The number of shots were almost even. They did have slightly more than us, but we had majority of possession. Our XG wasn't that far below there. So we got pummeled 4-0, but they were a bit lucky. Their XG was about a 2. Our XG was about a 2. So they were lucky. We were unlucky. It happens. They were definitely the better team, though. And we certainly struggled in the early stages of that one. Outside of that, we've won everything lately. Just a couple draws going way back to our early season loss to the second place team. So on road to second and third place teams, that's where we've had some problems. Here, the rest of the year, Mengelrud, they're our penultimate game. The Björka one, that was already the final. We beat them 6-3 to open the season. That was the one match we actually saw the first half of. 6-3, though, they put up 3 goals against us. So they put up 7 goals in the 2 matches we played them. They actually outscored us 6-7. So a bit of a scoring fest, a bit of a slug fest. And we split the points. Now, in terms of the league, though, It's not comfortable, but it's looking like we'll probably see it out. We have a game in hand on both of those two chasers. They've got 29, 26 points. We've got 35, and we're plus 13. It's easing our way clear, but we're definitely not dominating. I feel fairly confident that we'll get through this season in one piece, that we should get our league win, that we should get our promotion. Should, keyword should, not that we will, but should. Next season, though, I mean, if we're starting to ease off on the dominance and it's getting a little tighter, I don't know what next season's going to bring. I don't think we're going to go out and suffer relegation or anything like that. I don't think it's going to be that big of a step up, but it could be enough of a step that we're not stepping into the top portion. Maybe we step into third or fourth place and find a few teams that do offer us a bit of a challenge. Will that get us in a stage where we can finally get some players loaned out, because it still hasn't happened yet, that they could start to develop and come back to us a little bit better and be useful for us? I don't know. I do not know. Time will tell. Finances continue to dip lower and lower, but it's not that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. I feel like we're doing okay. We're hanging in there, and we'll see what does the future have in order for us. That development, is it a thing? Is it real? We'll see. Only time will tell. That is going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.